Psalm 27 opens with one of the most powerful declarations in all of Scripture. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? These words are not just poetry, they are a lifeline. They are meant to be spoken out loud, believed deeply, and lived daily. And if you let them sink into your spirit, they will change the way you see everything around you. Let's start with this. Light and salvation, those are not just two random religious words. Light is what breaks through the darkness. It's what allows you to see. It guides, it warms, it reveals. And salvation, oh, that's deliverance. That's safety. That's God stepping into your chaos and saying, "You're mine. I'm here. I've come to rescue you." Now imagine waking up every morning and instead of rehearsing the fear, the worry, the doubt, the bills, the diagnosis, the heartbreak, you start by declaring, "The Lord is my light." Just say it to yourself. Not was, not maybe will be, not if I'm good enough, he might, but is present now. Your light right now. Even if everything around you feels dim, even if your emotions don't line up, the truth remains. The Lord is your light. He shines in the darkest places. He shows up when no one else does. And he's not only your light, he is your salvation. You don't have to look to the world to save you. You don't have to wait on a person to rescue you. The Lord himself is your deliverance. Do you know what that means? That means you're not helpless. That means you don't have to stay bound or anxious or broken, because the one who created the universe has stepped into your life and said, "I will carry you." Now, when you really know that, when it becomes more than just words on a page, when it drops down into your spirit, it changes everything. That's when the question comes, and it's not a rhetorical one. It's a weapon. Oh, whom shall I fear? It's like the soul standing up and saying, if God is for me, what could possibly intimidate me? Not cancer, not poverty, not loneliness, not the devil himself. Nothing. Because perfect love casts out fear, and God's love is impartial. It's full. It's perfect. It's personal. When you know the Lord is your stronghold, your hiding place, your defense, then even when the enemy comes in like a flood, your soul doesn't panic. It doesn't tremble. It stands firm. I'm not saying you'll never feel afraid. It's human. But the fear won't control you. It won't define you. You'll feel it, but it won't have the final say. Why? Because faith will rise. Because trust in the unshakable presence of God will silence every lie the enemy tries to whisper in your ear. You see, the reason David could declare this so boldly is not because his life was easy. He was hunted, he was betrayed, he was surrounded, and yet he said, "I'm not afraid." Not because of his strength, but because he knew his source. The presence of God was more real to him than the threat of death. He had learned that when he turned his eyes toward the Lord, fear lost its grip. This is why we must begin our day in his presence. Before the phone starts buzzing, before the noise begins, open your mouth and say, "Lord, you are my light today. You are my salvation. I choose to trust you. I choose to believe you. I choose to walk in your light." You don't have to fake it until you make it. You don't have to pretend like you're strong. All you have to do is lean. Lean into the one who is strength. Lean into the one who never sleeps, who never leaves, who knows your name and numbers every hair on your head. He didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. And when fear tries to creep in, you remind yourself, whom shall I fear? That's not just a comfort, that's a declaration of war against fear. It's a reminder that fear is a liar, and the truth is that God is on your side. So don't let the voices of yesterday drown out the voice of truth today. Don't let what you see shake what he has spoken. You are not alone. You are not without help. You are not powerless. You have a light. You have a savior, and you have nothing to fear. Let that truth shape your morning, your mindset, and your every step today. It's one thing to believe that God is with you in a quiet moment of prayer. It's another thing entirely to stand in that confidence when all of hell seems to break loose against your life. Psalm 27 doesn't ignore the reality of battles or the presence of enemies. It doesn't paint a fantasy world where nothing ever goes wrong. No. David writes from a place of deep understanding, from a life that had tasted betrayal, had run from danger, had been surrounded by enemies who wanted him destroyed, and yet, with unwavering trust, he says, "Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident." Do you feel that? That's not arrogance. That's not denial. That's faith, real, raw, unshakable faith. That's confidence rooted not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of God. You see, confidence in God doesn't mean you won't be attacked. It means you'll stand firm even when the attack comes. It means you know where your help comes from. It means that your peace doesn't depend on your circumstances. It depends on the one who holds your future. Let me tell you something. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on people who aren't a threat. If you're under attack, if it feels like you're surrounded, if pressure has been building and opposition keeps coming from every direction, don't let it drive you into despair. Let it drive you deeper into God. Because the truth is, every time the enemy surrounds you, God surrounds the enemy. Every time the enemy schemes, God is already 1,000 steps ahead. The devil may try to intimidate you, but he cannot overcome the one who belongs to the Lord. There's a confidence that comes not from knowing all the answers, but from knowing the one who does. From the outside, it may look like you're outnumbered. From the outside, it may seem like you're losing. But faith has a different perspective. Faith doesn't just see what's happening. Faith sees who's standing with you. And when you see that clearly, your heart stops trembling and starts praising. David didn't say he hoped God would show up. He didn't say, maybe, if everything goes right, he'll make it through. He said, even then, I will be confident. That kind of boldness doesn't come from theory. It comes from encounter. It comes from knowing deep down in your spirit that the same God who delivered you before will do it again. That the same God who parted the sea, who shut the mouths of lions, who walked in the fire, is walking with you right now. So when the voices rise against you, when fear tries to take over, when discouragement whispers, when people lie about you, betray you, leave you, you don't fold. You don't shrink back. You lift your head, not because of your strength, but because of His. You say, I will be confident, not in me, not in my plan, but in the God who has never failed. And if you've been knocked down, if you feel like the battle has drained you, like the weight has been too much, don't confuse tiredness with defeat. Just because you're weary doesn't mean you're finished. The battle doesn't end with exhaustion. It ends with victory. And your confidence in God is what carries you through. Some of you have been listening to the wrong voices. The voice that says, you're not enough. The voice that says, you'll never get out of this. The voice that says, this is where your story ends. But I came to tell you that your confidence isn't based on what they said. It's based on what He said. And He said you're chosen. He said you're protected. He said you're more than a conqueror. He said no weapon formed against you will prosper. And when God says something, He doesn't stutter. He doesn't second guess. He doesn't make empty promises. So even when it feels like war has broken out against your peace, your family, your future, you can still say, even then, I will be confident. That's not a suggestion. That's a lifeline. That's a daily choice. When your feet hit the floor in the morning, you don't have to walk into the day guessing what's going to happen. You walk in knowing who's going before you. You walk in with a song on your lips and faith in your heart. Not because everything is perfect, but because your God is faithful. So let the storm rage. Let the enemies gather. Let the pressures rise, because even then, you will be confident. There's a moment in Psalm 27 that reveals the very heartbeat of David, and if you let it, it will reveal yours too. He says, one thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek Him in His temple. Now think about that. Of all the things David could have asked for, victory over his enemies, protection, riches, long life, he asked for one thing, just one, to dwell in the presence of God. That tells you everything about what truly matters. You see, we spend so much of our lives chasing things. We chase peace. We chase stability, we chase love, we chase provision, we chase success, and none of those things are wrong. But David understood something most people miss. When you have the presence of God, you already have everything else. When you're dwelling in His presence, the striving ceases, the fear subsides, the searching ends because you've found the very source of life itself. David wasn't asking for a place, he was asking for a person. He wasn't trying to get to a building. He was desperate for communion with the living God. And not just on the Sabbath, not just during crisis. He said, all the days of my life, every day, morning by morning. He wanted to wake up and know God was near. He wanted his soul to be saturated in the glory of His presence. He didn't want a visit, he wanted to dwell. And that's the invitation for you today, to start your day not by reaching for your phone, not by checking your schedule, not by diving into the stress, but by dwelling. Before you face the world, face the one who holds the world. Before you take on the pressure, take in his presence. It's not about how many minutes you spend. It's about the posture of your heart. It's about saying, Lord, I don't want anything more than I want you. There is something sacred about seeking him. There is something life-altering about choosing him first. When David said he wanted to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, he wasn't talking about physical sight. He was talking about spiritual awe. He wanted to behold God's goodness. He wanted to be overwhelmed not by his enemies, but by God's gloryfulness. He wanted the eyes of his heart to be fixed, not on the threat, but on the one who is altogether lovely, altogether holy, altogether worthy. And when you begin to live like that, when your desire for God becomes the driving force of your day, everything changes. Your reactions change. Your atmosphere changes. Your priorities realign. You stop looking to people to fill what only God can satisfy. You stop depending on circumstances to give you peace. You stop performing for approval. Why? Because the gaze of your soul is on him. And when your eyes are on him, fear loses its grip, anxiety has no voice, and darkness flees. Chaos, trying to find direction, trying to hold it all together, and God is calling you back to the one thing. He's calling you to sit at his feet again, to get still, to listen, to gaze. Because when you get a glimpse of his beauty, everything else fades. When you hear his whisper, all the shouting voices around you lose their power. You may still walk through the storm, but you'll walk through it differently, because your spirit will be anchored in intimacy. This is why David could be fearless. This is why he could face armies and betrayal and uncertainty. It wasn't that he was braver than anyone else. It was that he had a secret place with God. He had tasted something deeper than the battlefield, and that's what gave him strength. The place of worship became the wellspring of his confidence. You have access to that same place. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to strive for it. The veil was torn. The presence of God is no longer locked behind temple walls. It lives within you, but you still must choose to seek. You must choose to quiet the noise and turn your heart. That's where the breakthrough happens. Not always out there, but in here, in the quiet, in the surrender, in the seeking. So let this be your cry today. Let this be the longing that defines your life. Not more things, not more control, but more of him. Just one thing, just one pursuit, that you may dwell with him, that you may gaze upon him, that you may seek him, not just on Sunday, not just in need, but every day, every breath, every step. Because when you find him, truly find him, you'll realize he was all you ever needed. There is something about worship that shifts the atmosphere, not just around you, but within you. It's not just a song, it's a surrender. It's not just emotion, it's spiritual warfare. In Psalm 27, right in the middle of talking about battles and enemies and confidence in the presence of God, David says something powerful. At his sacred tent, I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Right there, in the face of adversity, in the presence of opposition, David chose to worship. Now think about that for a moment. He didn't wait for the breakthrough to sing. He didn't wait for everything to be perfect to rejoice. He worshipped in the middle of the war. And that's what makes worship so powerful. It's not a reaction to victory, it's a declaration of it. Worship says, I know who my God is and I trust him, even before I see the answer. It's the sound of a heart that refuses to bow to fear, refuses to shrink under pressure, and refuses to let the enemy have the final word. Some of the most powerful worship doesn't come from the mountaintop. It comes from the valley. It comes when you've got tears in your eyes and a lump in your throat, but you still lift your hands and say, Lord, you are worthy. That's the kind of worship that breaks chains. That's the kind of praise that silences the enemy. That's the kind of surrender that welcomes the presence of God into even the darkest moments. Worship is not just music. It's your posture. It's your heart choosing to exalt God above everything else that's trying to exalt itself in your life. It's not about volume, it's about focus. When you worship, you're saying, I choose to lift my eyes above the storm. I choose to magnify the Lord instead of magnifying the problem. Because whatever you magnify becomes bigger in your life. And when you magnify God, faith rises, peace flows, and courage returns. David understood this. He knew that when he praised, he wasn't just lifting his voice, he was lifting his spirit. He was aligning his heart with heaven. And that's why he could say, I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. Sometimes joy is a sacrifice. Sometimes praise feels costly. But when you offer it anyway, when you offer it through pain, through questions, through waiting, it becomes a fire that burns away fear. It becomes a sound that carries weight in the spirit. The enemy hates worship. He can't stand it, because worship reminds him of what he lost and what you still have. He wants you to be silent. He wants you to be discouraged, to complain, to speak defeat. But when you open your mouth in praise, you are using a weapon that he has no answer for. When you worship, you're not just surviving, you're advancing. You're pushing darkness back. You're declaring that your God is greater than your situation. And don't think for a moment that your worship goes unnoticed. Heaven hears every note, every cry, every whisper of I trust you. And the Lord responds. His presence comes close. His peace descends. His spirit strengthens you right in the middle of the fight. That's why worship must be your weapon. It must be the first thing you reach for, not the last. When anxiety rises, worship. When the report is bad, worship. When the doors close, worship. When you don't know what to do, worship. You see, worship shifts the focus off of you and onto him. It reminds your soul who's in control. It stirs up the truth again. That's why the enemy will try everything to distract you, to weary you, to make you feel like worship is a waste of time. But it's not a waste, it's warfare. And the people who learn to worship in the dark are the ones who carry light wherever they go. David wasn't worshiping from a throne in this moment. He was surrounded by trouble. But he knew that if he could just get into the presence of God, everything would change. Not always the situation, but his heart, his perspective, his courage, his peace. That's what worship does. It opens the door for heaven to meet earth. And when heaven comes, everything shifts. You don't need to wait for the right mood or the right setting. You don't need a choir or a band. You just need a surrendered heart and a voice that says, Lord, I love you. I honor you. I trust you. That's where the power is. Right there in the secret place. In the car, in the kitchen, in the quiet. That's where battles are won. So don't lose your song. Don't let the fire go out. Lift your voice, even if it trembles. Offer your praise, even if it hurts. Because when you do, heaven stands to attention, and God himself begins to move. There comes a moment in every believer's life when the waiting gets long, when the prayers feel unanswered, when you've worshipped, you've believed, you've stood your ground, and still nothing seems to move. That's the place David was touching in Psalm 27 when he wrote, Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord, not once, but twice. Wait for the Lord. Because David knew something that many miss. The waiting is not wasted. The waiting is where your strength is renewed. The waiting is where your roots grow deep. And the waiting is where God proves he's worth trusting. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. Waiting means trusting. It means choosing to believe that God is still working, even when you don't see a thing. It means resting in the truth that his timing is not your timing, but his timing is always perfect. And that's not easy, because everything in us wants to fix it, force it, hurry it. We want to open doors God has shut. We want answers without process, but faith doesn't grow in the rush. Faith grows in the wait. David had seen plenty of delays. He was anointed as king, and yet he spent years hiding in caves. He had a promise, but he also had a journey. And that's where we often stumble. We receive the promise, but when the process takes longer than expected, we start to doubt. We start to question, did I hear God right? Is he really going to come through? But the delays of God are not his denials. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. God is never late, but he's also never early. He comes right on time, his time. And so David says, be strong and take heart. Because waiting is not passive. It takes strength to wait. It takes courage to hold your peace when everything in you wants to panic. It takes faith to believe when the answer is still invisible. But that's the kind of strength God is building in you right now. Not just strength to survive, but strength to carry what you've prayed for. Strength to walk in the fullness of the promise when it finally comes. You may be in that place today. You've believed, but you're tired. You've prayed, but the heavens feel silent. Let me remind you, God is not ignoring you. He's preparing something. He's aligning pieces you cannot see. He's working behind the curtain, orchestrating a story far bigger than you imagined. And when he steps in, it will make sense. It will be worth every tear, every hour, every unanswered question, because God is faithful. He doesn't tease us with hope. He fulfills his word. But the waiting will test you. It will reveal what's in your heart. It will burn away the things that don't belong. And if you let it, the waiting will make you stronger, purer, more anchored than you've ever been. That's a take heart. Because in the waiting, God is not just changing your situation. He's changing you. So don't give up. Don't walk away. Don't let the delay convince you that the promise is dead. Abraham waited, Joseph waited, Hannah waited, Jesus waited, and all of them saw the faithfulness of God in the fullness of time. You're not alone in your waiting. Heaven sees you, the Spirit strengthens you, and the Father is drawing near even when you can't feel him. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is not run ahead of God. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, Lord, I will wait for you. I will not settle for less. I will not move until you say move. Because when you wait on the Lord, you don't just avoid mistakes. You step into miracles. You step into doors that only he can open. You step into timing that only he can orchestrate. And there is no safer place than in the center of his will. You may feel like nothing is happening, but in the Spirit, everything is moving. Angels are dispatched. Favor is being positioned. Provision is being stirred. Healing is being prepared. And in the quiet, in the stillness, God is whispering, trust me, I've got this. Waiting doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means you're being refined. It means God cares too much to rush what he is doing in you and through you. So take heart. Let hope rise again. Let faith hold on. Because just when it seems like nothing is coming, that's when everything begins to shift. And when it does, you'll look back and understand why you had to wait. You'll see the beauty in the process. You'll see the strength in your soul. You'll see the faithfulness of the one who never left your side. So I say again, just like David did, wait for the Lord. Be strong, take heart, and wait. There is a line in Psalm 27 that breathes life into weary hearts. It says, I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Oh, what a declaration that is. Not just hope for heaven someday, not just joy in the sweet by and by, but confidence right here, right now.